Hello and welcome to the Unstuck podcast. My name is Connie Bailey, and this is a place for stories of inspiration as well as a place to receive education and counsel on how to get unstuck. Make sure you follow the Phoebe Project on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and hit subscribe on YouTube to be notified when new podcasts get posted. You can go to thephoebeproject.com for links and resources as well as full notes on today's podcast. In today's podcast, Wendy shares her story about the realization that she was in an abusive marriage and she made the hard decision to leave. She shares a little bit about her journey, including facing the truth, learning her value in Christ, and having the courage to make the hard decisions that would lead her to be a single mother of 3. So we'll get right into it. Tell us how you met him, how did it start, and what?
I went down to Florida to work at a mission organization for just a short term, 2 years plan. Met my husband in church down there. We started dating. We got engaged very quickly. Shortly before we got married, he was in a car accident and got a concussion, which I believe actually caused some
Something
It changed his personality. He also was on a lot of prescription medication, and he got addicted to those, and they really changed him. I don't believe that divorce is an option. Just that sounds super hypocritical of me. It shouldn't just be like, oh, I'm not happy, so screw that, and I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So it was always hard. He was very controlling. Very verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, made me feel like nothing. And I just felt like pretty much my role was to be a mom. I felt like I lost all sense of myself. The only thing that I was at that point was a mom. I didn't even realize how bad things were until we got hit by a hurricane, and we're in the house when it hit. And it hit, I'm not talking just a long ways away and it was a little bit of wind. It's no, it actually basically ripped the roof off of our house while we were in the bathroom praying that, well, to be perfectly honest, I actually prayed that God would just kill us. If it's going to fall on us, just let us die. But we didn't, because it didn't fall on us. Like I said, basically it ripped the roof off. It rained right into my house. But my parents came down to help with helping to clean up and stuff, because it was a lot. They didn't realize how bad things had gotten in our marriage until they came to actually see. And within a week, my best friend in Florida, my parents, and my mother-in-law all told me that I needed to leave my husband. And I really felt like that was a sign. And then another hurricane came, so we had to evacuate. It was crazy. But so I packed up the kids and I evacuated to Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I don't know. It's hard to talk about, I guess, because he's since passed away, right? So it's hard for me to... How much bad things do I want to say about him?
And I don't think we want to talk about the bad things.
No.
But I
don't really want to talk about that.
And you know what? Every person has their own struggle. So clearly he had a struggle that he wasn't willing to deal with at the time.
Yeah, he had a lot of stuff going on. I wonder, like I said, he's passed away, but I wonder sometimes, what kind of, if there was some mental illness that he wasn't dealing with that, never got diagnosed, never got dealt with. Like I said, when we moved here, and my goal with leaving him and moving here is because things had gotten really bad.
You are someone who, as you mentioned, was raised in a conservative church. I as well, as you know. And divorce is extremely frowned upon. So you making that decision and you know, thankfully having the support of your parents, seeing the damage that was happening, because what does happen with verbal abuse is you start like really not believing in yourself, not seeing yourself the way God sees you,
right?
You know, you start believing all these lies. Could this all be true about me? When really it's his issue. He's the one that is supposed to be dealing with the problems, right? I mean, you know, we're all supposed to be taking our own responsibility. So here you are and you make this decision to leave. You don't want your kids to be around this all the time.
No. And I didn't
how
realize
hard was that?
It was very hard. My goal always was, even in that stage, was that I would leave and he would say to himself, oh, what have I done that would make my wife leave with my children, and I really need to change things. I need to step up, and I need to be the husband that, you know, that I should be in order, you know, to rectify things with my family and stuff. That's what I wanted. I never wanted to divorce him. I never wanted our marriage to end. I always thought and prayed that he would come around and see that something needed to change. And he would call and just berate me and make me feel like absolutely garbage. Those were tough years. I remember getting off the phone with him regularly and just going to my room, closing the door, shutting my kids out for a bit, and just bawling into my pillow because I just felt like nothing. And yet always hoped that something would happen, that things would get better.
So if someone is listening that is in that situation, because, you know, I think sometimes when you're in the middle of it, you don't actually see it for what it is.
No, you don't. I didn't. My mom made me go to counseling when I got back here. I didn't think I needed it. I'm fine. But she sent me to a counselor, and I remember my counselor giving me this questionnaire thing, and I think you just kind of do it. And she looked over and she said, have you ever considered that you were a battered wife? No, because he never hit me. Right. And she's like, no, actually, you're dealing with abuse here. Yeah. And I didn't see it. Not until after. I'm not proud that I'm divorced. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like, woohoo, look at me. But I am proud of me being, finding the strength to be okay with being me. Right. And not to let somebody, even if it's my husband, to come along and tell me that I'm less than. Because God did not create me less than. God created me to be who he wanted me to be, and that was not who God wanted me to be. Right. And, you know, stuff happens in this world, and this world is full of sin and sinful people, and it affects everything. Right. And sometimes marriages just are garbage. And as Christians, we hope that our marriages are not going to be that. But if it is, it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad Christian. It doesn't make you a bad anything just because you ended up in a situation that, you know, you walked in with full good intentions. I always thought that he was a wonderful, godly man. That was who I thought I was marrying, and that's not who I ended up with. You know, God doesn't want us to live a life of abuse. Doesn't want us to be with people who are going to cut you down and make you into a nothing. That's not who God wants you to be.
And you mentioned earlier that you hate divorce. You hate the thought of divorce.
I do.
But there's a but there.
Right.
Because we should not be allowing abuse. God doesn't want us to be in a relationship where we're being put down, shoved down.
Yeah. Right? And that's not who he wanted me to be. And the truth is, as much as when he died,
which is not that long ago.
Not that long ago, a couple years ago. So I was a single mom for over 15 years when he passed away. There was this thought that crossed my mind at one point, and it kind of surprised me actually that I could go date somebody now. And I thought, I guess I couldn't before, because the truth is, I married him till death do us part. Divorce or not, didn't matter. He was my husband, and I was committed to him. And in that, I feel like I honored God, I honored him, I honored my marriage vows. I honored my children in that. And I'm not trying to judge anybody for their choices if they find somebody to, get remarried or whatever. I don't want to feel like, I don't want anybody to think that I'm being judgmental of that. For myself, that was the right choice for me to make. That I could be honoring in that, and easy.
Yeah, and making that choice. How did you deal? Did you deal with loneliness?
Yeah, all the time. There's a lot of times that I thought, and I don't get me wrong, I prayed too. I don't even know where I would go out to start looking for a replacement husband. I don't know where you find those at 50 years old, but but in the meantime,
who knows when we get this out there?
Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, but no.
Just send us a private message. Didn't see that coming.
No, sure didn't. But yeah, no, I did. There's lots of times that I prayed that God would send somebody, that it was just being a single mom really hard. God maybe didn't, bring a second husband to me yet, but he gave me a mom and dad who were amazingly supportive, and he gave me a church full of people who love me and support me, and gave me friends who I've met along the way, and people, like you. We end up on a committee together, and here we are, now we're friends.
Yeah.
And it's just so cool, and God has just filled my life with people who are there for me, who support me, who I can be going through difficult time, and I have a list of people. It's like I can contact any of these people, and they're there for me on a moment's notice. And so, not to say that I'm not lonely sometimes, but I don't have to be lonely very long before it's like, no, actually, I've got so many people. I've got good people.
So for someone listening who is in a situation where they're like, they're scared to do anything around the house. What if I get yelled at? Or what if,
Yeah. That's hard.
What is your advice to that person? When is it okay to leave? That's a
tough thing. I don't know
question.
that I could tell somebody when it's okay to leave. You have to do you, but you do have to be okay with it at some point. Mm-hmm. If God does not want you to live in an abusive relationship.
No.
There's nothing God honoring about someone making you feel small, about someone yelling at you for doing the right thing, about somebody berating you, about somebody, making you feel less than. God is not honored in that relationship. If you can fix it through counseling, if you can fix it through prayer, and trust me, God can do miracles. There are lots of relationships that have ugly moments that God does miracles and can restore your marriage. And I prayed that for myself. It didn't happen, but pray that for you, and it can. God is capable. You know, don't just give up. I think it's, you know, you can't just, but also don't believe the lies, because you are more.
Right.
God created you to be somebody huge and beautiful and wonderful, and He created you for a purpose. And your purpose is not to be a doormat and a punching bag, verbally, emotionally, or physically, for that matter. That's not your purpose. God didn't create anybody for that purpose. And
I love that.
right? He can restore. And if that is your goal, then pray for that and do what needs to be done. But sometimes what needs to be done, sometimes you need to get out and you need to become the person that you need to be. And if restoration can still happen, then great. But you have to be you. You can't be this sliced up version of yourself in order to make somebody happy who honestly is not going to be happy no matter what.
Right.
Because that's what, for some people, somebody who's truly a narcissist, somebody who's truly just abusive and doesn't really care about you, truly, they really don't. They tell you they love you, but they really don't. They just want somebody in their life that they can cut down, that makes them feel powerful, that makes them feel big. And no, you're better than that. You deserve more than that.
I've done a lot of studying on narcissistic behavior, and I know that when it comes to narcissism, it's almost like impossible to fix.
Yeah.
You can't. If a person doesn't own their narcissistic behavior, there's really no hope, and that's hard, because here we are as believers wanting to believe the best, wanting to have a solid marriage, believing that this is what it was going to be, you know, seeing all these things, slowly realizing that some of it may have been lies, and finding yourself in this place that is unfixable. And what I see you did was set boundaries. You know, you said you left in hopes of like, okay, he's gonna see that this is what we've come to, he's gonna make changes, and he just simply chose not to make changes. And then that, you know, because my husband and I have gone through situations as well, or early on in our marriage, and people ask me like, how did you get through that? And the answer is, we both owned it. And in marriage, you can't, you can only own yourself. You can't own the other person. And so if it doesn't, it will only work if both people own it. And as far as I can tell in your situation, he just...
No, it was always, everything was my fault. He didn't
own it.
Even after he would call and like, the reason our marriage failed, it's my fault. A year before he died, kind of had a bit of a breakdown and took some time, mental health break from work and from life, and did some deep counseling. And in that process, unpacking that closet, found some emotions about our marriage, about, you know, I was mad. And I didn't realize I was still mad. I thought I had gotten over it. I thought it was done. I got to this place where I was okay with myself. I was okay with who I was. I was okay with the fact that I'd left my husband and single mom, and I was okay with my life. I was there at that point already. And because like I said, I'd been doing it for a long time already, and I thought, yeah, I'm okay with this. And then you start unpacking this closet and you start pulling stuff out. And then I pulled out this thread, and this piece of garbage came falling out, and that I didn't even know was there. And that's the one journal entry that I for sure don't ever want anybody to see, because there was a lot of swearing. I don't swear, but there was a lot of swearing. The truth is, I was lonely, and probably why I jumped in as quick as I did, because I was lonely. And he was there, and he said he loved me, and said he, you know, wanted to be all of these things, and I was like, that is what I want. And So we got married, and I had this promise of this great life that I was expecting, and it didn't happen, and I was mad. I was mad for him for messing it all up, and I blurted it all into my book, and it was ugly, and there was a lot of tears that went along with it.
How important is it to forgive, and why?
Oh, huge. The most important. When you don't forgive someone, it's like I said, okay, so 15 years, I'm a single mom, and I get to this place where God leads me to a situation where I finally have to unpack my closet, right? And so all of a sudden, there's this thing in there that I didn't even realize, probably rotting there in the corner. And who knows how much of that rotting corpse that was back there was infiltrating itself into other areas of life that I didn't even realize, because it was so far back in my closet. I didn't even acknowledge it was there until I had to. And suddenly I'm unpacking it, and I'm realizing that I feel 30 pounds lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, it was like the clouds parted, and it was like, oh, I actually didn't know I was hanging on to it. But I was, and now I'm not. And I don't have to carry that anymore.
Nice. Now, you've mentioned this closet a few times.
Yeah. I'm a bit about the metaphors.
But it seems as though that's really helped you to put like a mental picture on it all.
Yeah.
And to help you to cope with everything. And
yeah,
that closet probably has been around a while, and you're dealing with all the stuff in it.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
The closet?
Yeah. Through journaling, maybe?
Yeah, through journaling.
And
Gross, right?
Yeah. The reason why I'm asking you about that is because I think in order for us to heal from different situations, we all have to find our own way. And I think, and I mean, journaling is something that I know not everyone loves to do. For me, it's been extremely healing, and I have my own, pictures that come up when I'm journaling, and I could get into that, but
and
we're
for some
talking
people,
about you today.
Right? For some people, there might not be words. Maybe they're like, I don't get my thing out in words. Well, maybe for you it's paint, and maybe sometimes, grab a crayon, grab a paintbrush, grab a whatever, and if that's what you're going to do, you might find that just let your emotions go, and you might find that one day you're going to paint the ugliest picture you've ever painted, because it is dark and it is gross. Like, it's just like all your grossness just coming out on the page. But you have to, like, if that's the way that you unpack your closet, then that's good.
Yeah.
I've tried to help my kids because they haven't found journaling very helpful. But, they have their own things that they have to unpack, right? And it's like, okay, well, so write poetry or play something on a piano if if you're musical, and just slam on some keys. I don't care. if that's how you're going to get rid of what you want to do. Or for some people it's even exercise, like go and punch a punching bag. Like, people will give you all kinds of advice, and a lot of that advice is good advice, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's like, this worked for them.
Yeah.
So you can take that, recognize it as good advice, but turn it into what works for you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, that's a really good point, but my brain's not going to work like that. This is going to work for me better. And you find that. But find people. I think it's about finding people who are going to support you.
Yeah.
If it wasn't for my best friend, for my mom, even for my mother-in-law, to come alongside and to recognize that I was not in a good place, that I needed to get away, to become my best version of me, to heal, to become that. I don't know where I would be right now. I really don't. It scares me a little bit to think about where I would have ended up. And I am so thankful that I had the people who were there to to support me, to recognize that there was something going on.
For people who are listening that are in the middle of it and don't have anybody, do you have any advice for those people?
Find somebody. There are people. You maybe don't think that there's somebody. And there will be people. And if you have nobody, if you really truly have nobody, there's always women's shelter, and they will be there to support you and love you. And they will put you in touch with other people who can support you and love you. There's support groups. There are places to go and look.
One thing you said earlier, and I think you've said it a couple times now actually, is that when you call out to God, when you cry out to God for somebody, He'll bring that person. He'll bring someone to you.
He does.
And I truly believe that as well.
Yeah.
I believe there's scripture that supports that, which I'll post.
Good.
But when you cry out, God hears you. He hears your cry, and He does bring the people that you need in order to support when you call out. And yeah, you're vulnerable and honest.
Right? But we're never as alone as we think we are.
Right.
He's always there in the valley, even when it's dark and it's hard to know. But you just have to trust that sometimes you can't see it. It's dark. There are dark times. But yeah, you just got to pray and you got to trust, and He will lead those people to you, and then you have to be okay with opening yourself up to that person. That's part of that's where the you part comes in, right? Like, we have to be okay with being vulnerable with someone else. Be strong in the Lord, be strong in yourself. Know that He will give you the strength to get through. When I am weak, then I am strong.
Thank you so much, Wendy, and thank you for joining us on the Unstuck podcast. Find more podcasts at thephoebeproject.com. The Unstuck podcast is a place for stories of inspiration, as well as a place to receive education and counsel on how to get unstuck. Make sure to follow the Phoebe Project on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok, and hit subscribe on YouTube to be notified when new podcasts get posted. And don't forget that if you go to thephoebeproject.com, you'll find links, resources, and full notes on today's podcast, all in hopes of helping you to get unstuck.